my friends, it's Randy, your host of Building Wins Live, and you know what today is? It is Building Wins Day, and it's also Separation Day, because you know what we do on Friday, my friends? We are separators because we're champions. That's what we do. So make sure we do that. Make that last text, call, email, something today. Go make it happen. Live it, love it, own it. You know what I'm talking about. Hey, today we've got a really fun guest. We're just talking off air. Heath Buller. Heath has been in this industry for a long time. He and I go back. We'll talk about that for, I think, over a decade. We've done a lot of shows together, done a lot of things in the industry together, and we're just going to have us a good old boy chat about the metal industry in general, the post-frame and metal roofing industry, and Heath's going to bring some really unique background. He slightly stepped away from this industry just recently. I don't know that might be forever or not, but he stepped away for now, and learning a lot of new things out there in the world. And so we're going to bring some fun for the next 30, 40 minutes. So don't go away, because we're going to be right back with Heath. Dude, who is that handsome guy?
Hello, Randy.
How you doing, my friend? Looking good, buddy.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I appreciate you being on, man.
Great to be here.
So how's life? I mean, like I said, I think we decided it was about a decade at least, right, that we've known each other?
Yeah, over a decade, actually, from when I got into the industry. We've definitely shared some time together at trade shows, competed against each other, shared some mutual customers.
Yep.
And I've lived on the east side of the country. I'm in Dallas, Texas now, father of three. Really enjoying it here in Texas.
Oh, you got to love it. Dallas is a good town.
It is. We're just east of town, right by Lake Ray Hubbard, Rockwell, Texas, and really enjoying it.
Okay, so you're kind of east. So you're sort of on the way if we was going to Tyler. Oh,
yes, yeah. Tyler or Texarkana. We kind of split between 20 and 30 there.
Okay, perfect. Because as you know, one of the manufacturers that I'm very actively involved with is ST Fastening, and they're headquartered there in Tyler. So
that's correct.
I've made that ride many a time back in the day from DFW out to Tyler. Was really excited when we figured out that there's an airport in Tyler, not very big.
Pounds Field, it has 4 gates, and you can be through security and at your gate in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
I use that airport.
I remember the first time we took that flight. It's got to be, especially with rush hour, if you hit it wrong, from DFW out to Tyler has got to be, 2.5 hours at least?
Oh, sure.
Maybe more. And I remember the first time we got on a plane, and it was one of those really small little commuter jets, and the flight attendant, she says to us, she's kind of funny. She says, "Don't be asking for anything, because you're not getting anything, because I'm not unbuckling my seat, because we literally would be wheels down exactly 20 minutes from when we take off."
Yeah, you don't even level out. You go up, you go down.
Exactly. But you know what? It's a whole lot better than that drive getting stuck in traffic, which I've done before.
Absolutely. That's one of the reasons I came to Dallas, was access to DFW and Love Field, to have 2 airports to use, American and Southwest Hub. It's really nice. I've lived in smaller markets, Louisville, Huntsville, Tulsa, connecting every time. I never realized how much of my life I was spending connecting till I came to a major market.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. Exactly.
It does.
So you started out, I just look at my notes here, you've got an array of experience in the metal industry, right?
That's correct.
Take us through a little bit of your history.
Yeah, so started out in oil field coatings as a NACE inspector, for a corrosion inspector for oil field coatings, and then in 06, end of 06, first of 07, went to work for Plyco out of Wisconsin, and that got me into the post frame business, and really just kind of fell in love with the industry, mainly the small business owners that represent the majority of owners in America. Just being able to do face-to-face, business-to-business sales with good entrepreneurial families most of the time. So started off with Plyco, and then went to work for United Steel Supply. That's what took me to Louisville. I moved out to open up the Eastern Territory for them, and went to Louisville, Kentucky. And then Did that for almost 3 years and had an opportunity to go to GE Appliances there in Louisville. And I had a purchasing agent role there. And it was in coatings, metal, painted steel. And then I met Mill Steel while I was there, who had bought coated steel to get into the painted industry. And I was at Mill Steel almost 5 years, outside sales manager. And then had a few stints at some paint companies after that. So I've learned all sides and aspects of the industry. And right now I'm in a mergers and acquisitions role with a company called GoPuff. It's a startup. I would say it's really in scale up now.
Okay.
About 15 billion is our valuation right now. We'll have an IPO at some point, but adding some tools to my tool chest there, get a little better, get a little smarter, hopefully. But definitely love my time in the post frame industry, and there's days I miss it for sure.
Yeah, it's a great industry. That's probably one of the great things about this industry, and I'm sure other people say that about their industries, but it really is we talk about being in a B2B industry, right, business to business, but it's still in most industries. I think this is the case, right? But in ours especially, it's still a P2P, people to people, right? It's
Yes.
hugely that way in our industry.
Randy, I still have customers that I met getting into this industry that it's family to family. We know each other's families. We've watched kids grow up and graduate. We've been to funerals together, weddings together.
Mm-hmm.
That side of the business is just, it's really a throwback. Not to get too nostalgic, but you don't see a lot of industries that operate that way anymore, and it's
No,
a
you
great
don't.
thing.
And you're right, and that's something I think every one of us in this industry would be able to talk about or attest to is what you just said is my life story too. You know, the funerals, the weddings, the church school graduations. You know, it's all those things that make it because I've referred to a long time now or to them as customer friends, not just customers, right?
That's correct. Yeah, it's more than just a thank you card for your business or a follow up email. It's definitely very personal.
Yeah. Well, and I think for guys that move out of this industry, which I don't think a lot of people do because it's such a great industry, but some people do.
Yeah,
The one thing they take is a unique, or at least I feel a little bit of a unique sales experience to whatever else they may do, because I think you learn to cultivate, to farm, if you will, the relationships probably as good as any industry you'll be in, because it is not just an order with these people. Because, like you said, we get to know them, we know their kids, their family, their customers. Sometimes their customers' families, right? And
that's correct.
so when we let them down or don't produce when we're supposed to, what we said we'd do, it's a real person. It's not an order number, right?
And most of these communities that I've had the privilege to serve, it's typically a rural setting, or it's a smaller little hamlet setting, if to use that word, maybe outside of a metropolitan area. But these people they go to church with, their kids go to school with, whoever they put the roof on, what if they installed a door, they see these people in and around town. So to touch on what you were saying, Randy, if you let these people down, it is something that they don't have just a drop ship to a customer. They typically know that customer and installed it personally.
Yep, exactly. So you've been very close to this industry for a long time, especially in the coatings and in the coil part of the world. Let's chat for a little bit about what we've all been seeing and experiencing this last 15, 18 months or so with supply chain, right? I mean, that's something we have never seen quite like this, have we?
There's no playbook for this. It is unprecedented, and it's not over yet. It's probably, I'm hoping that it's peaked. I'm hearing there's been a little bit of pullback maybe with what was scheduled for fourth quarter, but again, that could change. You just need an outage or some other unforeseen event. And I mean, who would have thought we'd be talking about Ford parking 20,000 trucks in a month because they can't get chips, or
right.
A kid can't get a PlayStation for Christmas because you can't get chips. Well, steel is a similar type commodity outage. And I do know capacity is coming online, but again, the effects of that you won't feel till probably second half of next year.
Right. So we've got a ways to go on managing this thing, is what you're saying.
Correct, and it's not just the price, which the price is unprecedented. We've never seen prices this high, and that's affecting. Talking about from a service center perspective or even a mill perspective, what you used to be able to buy for half that amount, well, your credit limit is now tapped twice as fast, if not three
Right.
times as fast. And so you're seeing a lot of credit management, a lot of lending, a lot of diversification of relationships where you used to be single source if you're a buyer. You're seeing people now reach out and try to develop new relationships, but on the steel commodity side, that has not been able to manifest itself because there's no extra steel to start a relationship
Right.
with.
Right.
So it is a very, very unique time right now.
And it's interesting that the as the prices have went to just historical numbers, um, we're so busy, right? I mean, it's still crazy busy.
Yeah, I would say we've only now, after we're in the ninth month of the year, are we starting to see just a little bit of a pullback, but not much. But I would say where most years everybody maximizes their margins and profits in the back half of the year. I would say this year's been done in reverse. You probably made your yearly nut, to use that phrase,
Mm-hmm.
the first half of the year. So this year will probably be somewhat in reverse, and I think second half of the year will just be risk management, making sure your numbers are tight, making sure you don't have a lot of debt hanging out there.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. So, what would if from as an expert, if somebody's done this for a long time in purchasing as well as sales, numerous or suppliers, and from the paint end, from the coil end, um, what should you guys be doing right now? What's the best?
That
What's the Heath Builder? What do I do? Advice here.
it's the oldest and tried and true, that applies not only to steel but probably to everything. Stay within your terms and take your discount if possible if you want access to more steel and better prices. If I would say if you've taken leniency in the past or pushed suppliers out past your terms that you agreed upon, and some people need longer terms than others, but if you go past what you discussed and agreed upon, this is a handshake industry, as you know, Randy, and
Mm-hmm.
word goes a long way. Um, if you can stay within those few basic things, it's not a guarantee of more capacity, but it does put you at the front of the line and in the pecking order of staying within that family of suppliers.
Right. Like, that's good advice because let's face it, if you got limited steel and as a supplier, you're probably not going to go out taking undue risks with people at this point in time because there's
Correct.
literally another phone call waiting that wants the product, right?
So let's say a typical roll former is $1 million a year customer in a normal year. That valuation is now $2 million a year minimal,
Mm-hmm.
and that risk is 30 to 40x over a service center that they just went up exponentially. So it's mills looking at service centers looking at roll formers looking at their best contractors that they're picking and choosing who to supply. It's a cascade effect. That's all credit risk based,
Right.
supply and demand.
Exactly. And so you see this, I think we already discussed, but you see this well into at least the full part of the first half of next year at minimum, probably.
Definitely with the price saying solid. I do hear rumblings of deals being cut out there at a little lower numbers that maybe would encapsulate supply at a fixed number for the second half of the year, but it's not any massive discount back to what we saw, let's say, 2 years ago. And on that note, I would also state there is a new floor that's been established. We're probably never going to see numbers like we saw 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's never going to be back. Just on an inflationary measure for one, but also because steel was, you could argue, drastically undervalued for what you were purchasing.
Right, right. So, any some of them thinking about this from a contractor, a roofer, a homeowner standpoint. The I'm going to wait for a while now because this price is getting pretty high. I'm going to wait till the price comes down. if you want to wait a year or two, maybe, but like you said,
Yeah.
it's never coming down to where it was.
It won't be a large amount of give back. Correct.
Right.
If I was somebody waiting on a project, and you're saving, I'll just throw a round number out there. I'd be shocked if you could get 10 or 15% in the next year. I could be wrong. I mean, futures are looking a little more aggressive than that, but then what actually gets transacted and what gets given to the market is something different. And then I think the other thing that's probably been learned through all of this, roll formers in general probably had it too good at not being tasked with forecasting their own demand and really moving the replacement cost as they should on linear footage. Or hundredweight, however they choose to sell it. I do believe that started to take place second half of the year, but first half of the year it was a little too slow. And so I think you're going to have more disciplined roll formers coming out of this that are much more aware of the ups and downs, the supply constraints. And I'm saying that to say that just because there's a large give back for a month or two on the mill side, it may not translate to the service center side. And a roll former may have deficits to make up where he didn't advance his price fast enough.
Right.
And he ate it just to keep a contractor healthy.
Right.
So it's a give and take.
Right. So with that, and I think you sort of touched on it and answered it, but maybe just wanted to delve one more question deeper on it.
Sure.
You got the uptick that you got to manage. Is the downside equally as risk, equally as dangerous? Where's the roll former at the most peril, I guess? Is it on the upside and keeping up, or is it on the downside when it comes back down?
No, the roll former stands to benefit on the downside because typically if you see a downside, that means there's an oversupply or excess somewhere. So availability is taken out of the equation. And then it's ultimately their choice what they can charge and pass along to sell their trim or panel or their cupola for any piece that would take this product. It's ultimately up to them to capture the right amount of margin. So I don't see the risk on the downside as much as I'll answer that another way. I think we've seen all the risk already of just sheer availability. No matter what number you were willing to pay, you could not get a truckload of steel. I think that risk is probably past.
Okay.
I don't think you're going to see a massive drop off a cliff that will put people out of business a la was it 08 we started seeing signs in 07, 08. It sped up by 09. There was people closing their doors. I don't think we'll see that type of event again.
Yeah. Well, that's a good news thing.
Yeah, so, for sure.
It's just a matter now of it's, and I hate to use the term, even though it's a term that gets used a lot, and we use a lot over the past 15, 18, 20 months with the whole world of lockdowns and everything else, but the word new normal, right? And yeah. We talk about new normals and old normals and all those things. But that is, like you just said, there is a new normal here.
There's a new floor that it won't go below again. I won't venture to guess what that number is, but I can tell you steel that I sold on good back-to-back orders, 200 tons, 500 tons, it would drop people's jaw if they knew the number that was transacted at just 3 years ago, because we're never going to see that number again.
Great. Yep. So that's and I think that's an important thing for the steel buyers, for the roll form people to understand is you just got to make decisions based on this new normal, right? Just like we've all done in our world of selling products that, in our industry, right? And how we operate as sales pros, they're going back to the quote old way. You're going to wait a long time for that one.
That's correct.
Right.
And it's not just in steel, Randy. I'll touch on coatings for a second. You have some licensees that have been pulled for PVDF manufacturing out of Asia. You have a PVDF shortage for your main manufacturer for that licensed product out of France, and one other location that's skipping my mind. But you're seeing it in coatings for Kynar. You're seeing it, and here's the shift that's driving some of that. The PVDF is being used as a battery lining separator in this new EV car revolution. So you're seeing a demand go, from to tenfold just overnight almost. Well, those resins are getting sucked out of the coating industry for the steel. So that's another whiplash to the supply chain that probably wasn't factored in
Right.
coming out of COVID. But
Right.
now it's real. And so you're going to see people have to really forecast hard out for PVDF coated products.
Hmm.
And that, as you know, that's a main commercial spec, commercial code, high end residential,
Right.
standing seam, gutter. Probably not much gutter, but definitely for standing seam.
Well, yeah. So it's interesting. This is the year or 18 months or whatever it's been or so that
Feels longer.
it feels longer. And I think a key, and I wanted to maybe pivot with this, so I'm going to start with this, is I think a key I found for myself, and I'd like to see what you see from your end as being a sales pro and different companies and what our audience, our listeners could do. It's adapting, right? I mean, if you haven't learned to adapt in the last 18 months, well, you probably wouldn't be in business if you didn't learn to adapt.
That's right.
And I think that's probably not necessarily a bad thing, especially when we look back on it, because, and I'd like to get your take on this, but I've used the term sometimes. I've adapted tremendously in the last 18 months on how I run my rep agency. But the most important thing, if this makes sense, is I've become an adapter. You know, I understand that probably more than I ever did.
Yeah.
That I'm ready for adapting because it probably is going to keep coming in some shape or form, and you don't need to be afraid of it. You just need to be aware of it, right?
Yeah, adapting becomes a state of mind. It's not a place you go. It's a constant state of mind. You adapt. The only constant is change. And for any of the ex-military guys out there, you just learn to embrace the suck and move forward. That's change is constant. That's the only constant is change. I've had to change myself. That's part of the reason I'm in the role that I am. It's a way to challenge myself, learn new things, get a little bit better on the M&A and integration side, some EU exposure, things that I normally wouldn't have got from the post-frame industry. But that's not a knock on post-frame. I love it. That's my roots. It's just, again, adapting, growing. How can I be better? How can I augment myself, my old industry, my new industry, and my peers?
There you go. So obviously, what I say obviously, we're talking about change. What's Heath Bullard done different to what do you do different today as a sales pro? It looks like I'm assuming you're sitting in your home office. I'm guessing.
I'm sitting at home. I got the Texas sun peeking through my windows up there. Sorry for that, but yeah, sitting in my home office. So I will tell you this, Randy, after, and this is on a more of a personal note, but our personal side affects and impacts how we conduct our professional side. I did get recentered, I would say, through the lockdown, especially with my 3 kids. My son just turned 14. My girls are 9 and 10, and Levi, Lake, and Harper. They're why we do what we do, right? So. Right. I did learn to prioritize the main thing better, and I would say that's something I've kept true. I'm missing a lot less games, or not just because travel was cut. Travel's pretty much back now,
right.
But I would say one daily thing I do. I am more intentional daily with cooking breakfast if I'm home, if I'm available to go pick up from practice. Where I used to just all that was. I don't want to say delegated, but my wife just did all that. But I've gotten better as a human being, I would say, through all of this. And on the professional side, I think everyone's been forced to adapt with technology. My wife was teaching 3 kids on Canvas and Zoom classes for a year, myself trying to help out where I could. Randy, look at this show we're doing. I remember first time I saw you broadcast, you were getting back on a plane after we were locked down. I was cheering you on. So I think technology adaptation and using it as a tool to make yourself more efficient, create a broader reach. I mean, in that vein, I would say I'm following in your footsteps a little bit. I've tried to get better in that regard.
Well, thank you, and I'm sure you have, and I think that's typically if you allow yourself not to get all wrapped up in the woe is me thing, because that's easy to do. when major change happens, right?
Sure.
But and sometimes you don't see it till you get out. You can't see the forest for the trees, as they say. So you may
Yeah.
not see it until you're out of it a little bit, and then you look back and go, that was a pretty nice forest I just walked through. But not to say that the whole COVID thing was ever a good thing, and wish it had never happened. But if you look back and say, what can I take from this?
Yeah.
We can still make this a win. And like what you just said is, I think the win is, and you're spot on, more balance. I accomplish more now than I've ever accomplished with a much more balanced lifestyle than
I would
than I
echo
ever
that.
did. Correct?
Yeah. And there was no playbook for this, Randy. That's the thing. I couldn't call my dad. I couldn't. There was no way to. There was no playbook. And,
Right.
I have 6 little eyeballs. My wife stood shoulder to shoulder with me. She was great through the whole thing. I had friends that they didn't make it through COVID. I mean, it was too tough. And marriages suffered, kids suffered. But when there's no playbook, it's up to you and your wife, and you have 6 eyeballs looking at you saying, why is this happening? What do we do next? Why can't we go to school? It definitely forced everybody to dig deep and, to use your term, get centered for sure.
Yep. And so the reality is, what's kind of, I think, a positive to always not lose sight of, based on that, is whatever the next thing is. Hopefully, it's not another one of these kind of things, right? But there's always, and I'm using the thing is pretty technical, right? But there's always things that come up in life,
Yeah.
right? Whether personally, industry-wide, or globally, domestically, globally, whatever it is, there's going to be a thing of something. Nothing just runs smooth forever. The key is, I think we're all better prepared to just go, okay, well, that's not what I wanted, but we have the abilities to adapt and the ability to turn on a dime almost. And so I guess my point is, it's like with anything we talk about, if you have a loss on something, right? It's only a loss if you don't find a win. But the other thing with the loss is, when you start again, you started from a place better than you were, right?
That's right.
And I think that's where we are right now, is we are starting, whatever the next issue is, whatever it is, unless we all live long enough, we don't live through another issue, but that's probably not the case. Whatever the next issue is, small, medium, large, we're going to start in a position of adapting and moving forward way better than we were. Because like you said, we do have a bit of a playbook now, right?
We do.
Unless it's so different that it's something we can't even dream up. There is a bit of a playbook when the whole world ends on what you're used to doing. Because I know you and I, as sales guys on the road, I remember when I went home that last time, it was like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Because
Randy
is a road
life-changing.
Right? And I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do at all. And did I think that I would be doing the amount of social media stuff? Would I be doing videos and shows like this? Hell no. That was not even in my mindset at the time. So you do find... Go ahead.
Not to oversimplify what you were saying, but one of my favorite quotes, and I used to have this on my screensaver on my phone, was, I never lose. I either win or I learn. And if you can always use losing as a learning experience, like you said, the next time you start off, you're that much further ahead. You've adapted. Exactly. You've overcome.
Yep. And that falls into something I talk about now and then, and I think it's kind of interesting, is I'm big on, thus the name, building wins for the show, right? Because I'm just about building wins, right? And that doesn't mean just making a sale. It's you build wins in all aspects of your life, and then they all build off of each other, right? And so it's like, to off of what you said a minute ago, it's only a loss, or it's only a huge loss if you don't extract some wins out of the loss. So if you can pull out some wins, what did I learn? What did I do wrong? And then you can put that loss away, and I think that's important. You have to lock that away now, because you can't keep harboring these thoughts about the loss, because you got to get back in, because losses will compound just as well as wins, right? So you got to get rid of the loss, take the win, throw it on the win pile, and keep moving on. And I think that's the biggest thing I've learned out of this whole thing is I'm going to just keep finding those losses and take them and learn, like you said, and make it a win.
The competitive spirit, the competitive streak that's in the fabric of this country, how it was founded, it's what makes our country amazing. Um, I'll tell you a quick personal story. I'm not anymore now. I'll be 44 in January, but I used to
Man,
play
you're
a lot
old.
of basketball. I was a basketball hoops junkie, but I used to go play against guys that I knew I was gonna lose to every day, but they were gonna beat me down. But I slowly learned. I took something away from it, and you eventually get a little better, and you finally learn how to eke out a win here and there. And those small wins, just like life, just like sales, they start adding up, and you just keep moving forward and keep your competitive spirit alive and stay optimistic, and it'll work out.
Exactly. Um, the small wins. I think it was either this morning or yesterday. I did a post about that. It's interesting you say that. Yeah, great segue. But small wins, one after another, they build momentum, right?
Right.
And momentum, we all as guys, especially, we love sports analogies, right?
Yeah.
And what's the biggest thing you see in sports? Why do teams that should have had no business being there, no ability to win, all of a sudden come out with a W? Because they got the big mo on their side, right? And when you get that, it's almost like you can't shut it off, right? It takes on a life of its own. And I think the same thing happens with what we do.
Contagious. Momentum's contagious. And the other thing is you have to have somebody to set the tone and to cast that vision from the top and have an unwavering belief in the vision they're casting. And if everybody can latch onto that as a team, that's where the momentum happens. And it's overwhelming whenever you get that train behind you. It's hard to stop it. And it's a great experience. It's a great ride.
It is a great ride. And it's addictive, right? I mean,
It is.
you get it and you
The
can't get enough
juices
now.
that keep sales guys going. It's absolutely addictive. That's how you learn to compete once you can't physically compete in the arena anymore. That's one reason why sales attracts athletes at a high rate.
Yep. Makes sense. Makes sense. Man, that's good stuff right there, buddy.
Yeah. So, you're getting my juices going, Randy.
Oh, it's good to talk to people that are in the industry, in the same, not in the industry necessarily, but in the same world of sales, because I'm a believer that the concepts of selling, or as I like to call it, it's a little takeoff of Zig Ziglar. He does it way much better and much more famously, or did. But I love to think about myself as I'm a helper you getting what you need or want to help you profit, make more money guy. But that's too long to put on a card, so I just call myself a sales guy, right?
Yeah, I've always I don't want to say cringed, but I definitely look at myself as logistics, supply chain management. How can I help enhance your profits? Because if you don't have an issue, a problem, or a need of a solution, I'm just selling on price.
Right.
I need to be able to do something better for you. If that means more colors, if that means more supply, if that means better performance. But otherwise, you're just throwing. One of the classes I took was called Discovering Selling, and they termed it. He had a rubber chicken. He said, otherwise, you're just throwing chickens at the wall and hoping one of them sticks.
Right.
And yeah, you definitely want to be viewed more as a consultant, not the snake oil salesman.
Exactly.
That's how I've always tried to conduct my business: is how do I make you better? And if I can't, when something arises, we'll find a way to help each other. But if I can't, I understand.
Exactly. Well, yeah, and I think your point on price is so applicable, because when you sell on price, and that's all you got.
That's all you got.
So that's a quick elevator to the basement, right, with no stops.
That's correct.
Because there's this funny thing, and of course there is, but there's this funny thing about price. And if you're in the price gig only, there is no bottom.
Yeah.
It's like, obviously at some point there's a bottom, it's zero, right? But the point is, if you start getting nickeled and dimed, well, there's always another nickel or another dime, right? And
that's right.
And then that's all that becomes, is not a customer friend, not a relationship. it becomes, I only have the business today. It's a one-off, maybe a two-off, maybe a five-off, but all I have is the business until the next guy walks in. And it doesn't matter what the quality is because they already don't care because it's all price. The next guy that walks in and he's a penny or two cheaper, or a dollar cheaper, whatever, depending on the scale of the product, and you're gone again, right?
I would say this, Randy. I'll take it a step further. Bad salespeople make bad customers, and it goes back to what I was referencing at the first part of this. If a customer is used to operating that way, where quality doesn't matter, it's all on price, and that's typically the same customer, if you profile them, that's going to push the terms and go past the terms, and they're going to have the most claims or the most issues. Mm-hmm. And it creates this self-fulfilling cycle that is a race to the bottom, not just for you as a salesperson, but also for the customer and what their expectations are of what a true service-oriented business consultant, supply chain consultant can do for their business to cut their claims, make sure things deliver on time, make sure your company has dedicated trucks and you're not out trying to find trucks on the open market and gouging for freight rates. There's all these components that go into it. Making sure you have the best specification for the paint on there. Making sure your screw tip hardness is the best. It's not just some wire from small hands in far corners of the world that they made. Randy, who you rep, Seal Tight, they've moved to powder coating. They wanted the best, the most robust coating they could get. And that probably wasn't without headache, but you try to do what's right to separate yourself, be better, not sell on price. And that creates better customers.
Exactly. It does. It does. Awesome. Well, I appreciate we're pushing around 30, 40 minutes here, and I like I told you, I promised you I wouldn't try to go beyond 40 minutes or so.
That's all right.
You got lots to do besides talk to me, but this has been awesome. And I just, the last thing before I let you go is my friend and buddy that you met, my director there, he's so fast. Should ask questions. What is a should ask question if you can think of one off the I didn't pre-warn you about this, so we'll see how quick you are. What haven't I asked you today that you maybe want to take the last couple of minutes and chat about?
It's probably a bit of advice for roll formers out there that are purchasing steel in the spot or open market, and there's still some of that happening. Mm-hmm. Make sure your service center, when you're speaking with them, and you may be used to buying just out of general inventory, may have common colors, common sizes, widths. Make sure whenever you do a back-to-back, a tonnage deal, anything like that, know your supply chain and know your source. Don't just say, yes, my guy said he had me covered for these couple hundred tons. If you can, not everybody wants to divulge this, but make sure you know that your order is on a PO at a mill level. Okay. It just takes a lot of risk out for everybody involved. It makes you a better customer. You're more knowledgeable. It holds your supplier accountable. They need to divulge that, yes, you are covered and committed, and we're locked into a number. Or if you have a floating flex number, you're locked into the tons, at least for supply. That would be one thing I would cover for the audience that you're serving, that I used to serve. I would make sure you know your stuff is, it's not just a promise of 6 months, a boat on the water somewhere. You know that your order's on PO at a mill.
Right. That's good advice from a guy that's been there, man.
Yeah. Hey, anytime.
Awesome. Well, Heath, again, thank you. It's good to catch up, by the way. And seriously, if you end up in Tampa for some reason at MetalCon,
that's one of my favorite cities.
I love Tampa, and that's such a great spot. It's a great hall, and the hotels and the restaurants, and I know the first night down there or second night we're eating at, I want to call it Da Vinci's or something like that. You probably ate there, Italian spot right down from the convention center.
Oh yeah,
I'm excited just for that.
Just staying on the waterfront, yeah.
Yeah, right on the waterfront. There's a beautiful spot. So, as a matter of fact, I'm looking forward to the show. It's nice to be back. I was out in Vegas for IRE a month ago, whatever it's been now, and outside of incredibly hot and
dry,
and dry. And that's a funny thing. Everybody talks about the heat of the desert, and I like the desert, but in the heat of the desert, no, it's still dry heat. At least it's not. I'm going to take humidity versus that dry any day. But that's just me.
I go through tubes of chapstick every time I go to Vegas. It just dries me
Exactly.
so fast.
I made sure I had a big thing of chapstick, and I never use eye drops, but I had a big thing of Visine,
Yeah.
because that's the two things is my lips. I was out looking for chapstick one night at 1:30 in the morning, the last show that was in August several years ago, because I knew I wouldn't go to sleep.
Right.
It was like blowtorch on your lips, and eyes are dry, and you can't see, you can't blink. But it was a great show. It was great to be back doing shows. I was in Cincinnati for the Roll Former show, and that was good. It's just good to be back.
And IRE continues to grow every year.
It does. It does. It was a good show, and I felt like, in closing here, because I will let you go, but I did feel like, and I don't know what the official numbers were, but that maybe the numbers were a little lower. It just seemed like it, maybe.
Yeah.
But more importantly to me as a rep, the quality of the leads, if you will, was better.
Wow.
The people and I think it's because of just coming out of where we've come out of. I think the people that came with a real mission.
Yeah.
They really had an interest in seeing what's going on, and
if
and
they
learning
didn't
something.
cancel, they wanted to be there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but no, what good. So, but yes, make sure you hit me up if you come to Tampa for whatever reason, for MetalCon or
Absolutely.
whatever.
And we've got New Orleans for IRE coming up right in the heart of the South. So we'll have Tampa, New Orleans, Roll Former show there, where maybe things start to stabilize, get back to normal. Everything will pick up pretty.
Well, yeah, we got Nashville for the
it's
Rural Builder, isn't it?
I haven't checked that one, but
I believe the Rural Builder show, the NFBA, I think, is in Nashville.
That's always a great spot. Always a great spot.
It is. It's good stuff. So, well, Heath, again, thank you, my friend. It was very enlightening, and I'm sure Wes is making notes. I can see him. He doesn't remember that I can see him. Wave at me, Wes. He's waving. He's got his notepad up. He's got his sticky note, because he's got sound bites, some golden nuggets that we're going to put up over the next months. So
awesome.
We'll Wes is I surprised him, because the professional director producer, look at him, he's waving them at me, that he didn't realize that I could see him. It's kind of muted, but I can see him on my screen here when I'm talking, not as clear like I see you. And I told him last week after the show, I said, you were writing a bunch of notes for sound bites, weren't you? And he said, how do you know that? I said, well, I'm watching you the whole time. You can't get away with anything.
That's great.
But, well, anyway, thank you again. I appreciate it. If you want to, Wes going to pop you back in the infamous, he's in the infamous war room where he produces this show, but he's going to throw you into the almost infamous green room, and we'll come back and chat real quick off air if that's okay.
Perfect. Thank you, Randy. Pleasure to be here. My
friend, appreciate it, buddy. It was great. Cheers, bud. All right. Now that was some good stuff. Heath Buller brought the heat. Golden Nuggets, Wes. Golden Nuggets. I mean, I think he's already putting some sound bites up. I can see him working away. That or he's ordering pizza. I'm not sure which it is. But anyway, next week we got a fun show. They're all fun. I hate to say that, because every show I do is fun and I enjoy every guest. But next week is a guy, many of you will recognize his name. It's Ben Gay III. Ben is a living legend in the sales world. He has 50-plus years in this crazy gig, and he's truly a legend. He's worked and trained under some of the great legends of the sales world, the Zig Ziglars, the Earl Nightingales, the Napoleon Hills, and the guy's top-notch. He runs his own, or writes and produces and publishes. Yes, I got it all right. The Closers, which is a series about selling and closing, and he's was very much interested in being on the show next week, and he's going to bring some real golden nuggets and some real heat into the world of sales. And this is a great guy. You're going to love my friend Ben Gay III. So don't miss that next week, 3 o'clock. And also think about when we get down to Tampa, or when I get down to Tampa, I will be doing a bunch of vignettes. Wes doesn't know this yet. He's probably going, oh, he's throwing stuff in the air. I can see him. But I don't know if that's the right word. I use words in West Coast. What did that really mean? But anyways, little spot here, minute here, 30 seconds there. So if you can't get to the show, which I think you should, and if you do, look me up, call me, text me, carrier pigeon, announcement over the PA. And we'll get together. But I'm going to try to shoot a few little 30 seconds here, minute and a half there, give you a little flavor for the show. So look forward to that in about I don't know, October 6th or 7th or 8th, or whatever that show is. So that'll be a good time. So anyways, thank you all for tuning in live, and also thank you for all that we'll do the replay later, and send me any notes, any thoughts. And as always, remember this: it's one life, one time. Live it, love it, own it. And you know what to do next. Go make today your best day ever. Till tomorrow. Cheers, y'all.